model was created by Pamela Hayes in 1996 to address the multicultural factors of a client so that we can ensure that we're conducting a sensitive practice associated with cultural diversity. What we're going to be doing in this class is using the addressing model to create a client. Dr. Hayes and I have spoken about the use of this model and the fact that I have added some pieces specifically for the letters R, I, and N in her model to be more pertinent to the type of clients that we see in the United States specifically. So what we're going to do is begin with the understanding of what each letter is, and then I'll show you how this is going to work. So the A in the addressing model is the age of the client. You can see how the age of the client can be specific to different issues, including diagnosing, but for our purposes, we're going to be looking at the different stages, the theoretical stages that might be pertinent to the client, as well as other factors. The D and D is the developmental and disability factors that might be of concern or at issue when considering a theoretical application or orientation. So disabilities here could be physical disabilities, broken leg, hearing or visual impairment, can be psychological disabilities, which would include certain diagnoses, ADHD, other learning disabilities, or it could mean that the client may be in a low or mid-range IQ, so there could be disabilities related to that multi-axis assessment, as well as the second D, which is developmental issues. And this could be pertinent to a gifted child as well as to a child who may be developmentally delayed. So you need to consider the double D for each client. The next letter is R for religion, and what we're going to be considering for our client is the religious and spiritual elements that could be pertinent to understanding the client as a person of culture. The E is ethnicity, and in this case, we're always going to be adding American at the end of it. I think that helps for us to wrap our head around the client. Of course, ethnicity is always understood as what the client or how the client sees him or herself. S is for socioeconomic status, which we're going to use 3 classifications for in this class: low, mid, and high for SES. The second S is for sexual orientation. We're using 4 classifications in class for that. We would be using heterosexual, homosexual, transgendered, and bisexual. Of course, sometimes we need to guess or make our best guess, because if we're talking about children, we don't really know, but we want to make sure we're attending to that piece. The I in this case, Pamela Hayes had initially thought of I as indigenous populations. It's not very often that we come into contact with clients from indigenous populations. Of course, we would want to note that here. But in addition to that, for the I, what I'd like you to do is consider the client from a Adlerian perspective of identity. That's considering birth order. Is the client the first or the youngest, the middle child, the second to the oldest child? How does their gender play into their birth order? Are they an only girl in their entire mother's side of the family, for example, or father's side of the family might be more appropriate, and as well as other aspects of identity. Does the client have piercings or tattooing? Does he or she dress in a certain way in order to associate or be part of a community or society, as Adler would understand it? N is for nationality, according to Hayes. What we're going to be using N for, of course, if there is an issue of nationality other than U.S. citizen, you would want to put that here. It's unlikely that we're going to see a lot of clients with nationality other than our own, but I want to recognize that work from Hayes. We're going to be using this for name of the client. What is the name, the given name? What is the nickname? What is the preferred name? Maybe if they're a video game player, the gamer tag name. So any and all names and what they mean to the client, where they come from. And then G is for gender. So is your client a male or female? How do they consider themselves? Are they a boy or a girl? Or is there androgyny here? Is there some uncertainty about their gender? So that's what we would want to put under G. I also forgot to mention that the R for Hayes was only religion. We are going to be considering spirituality as well. for the clients that we're creating. Okay, so that's the first piece. The second piece will be to create a presenting problem and strengths. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and create a client as an example. So here is your client. Obviously, there's not much that we know about this client. So what we're going to do is create our client by giving our client a G, or gender. So how about we make our gender for our client female? So what that means is I will put a dress here, and obviously I'm not the best drawer, but hopefully this client now looks like a girl. So we have a female client. We're going to skip up to A, which, if you remember from our addressing, is at the beginning. So we have now an F down here for our female. So A, let's make our female 13. So we have a 13-year-old, and it matters how old our client is, because when we're talking about her from a psychoanalytic perspective, for example, we're going to be considering what stage she's in. Same thing with the psychosocial stages from psychoanalysis as well, which is Erikson over Freud. We're going to be talking about these in the coming weeks. So 13 years old is going to be very helpful for us in determining what terms and concepts we might apply for this client. So the next letters of the addressing are the D's. So we want to consider what disabilities or developmental aspects of our client do we want to include. And so just for the purpose of this, let's say that she may suffer from mild hearing impairment, because that might be easy for us to associate with. So she suffers from mild hearing impairment, and how it might be helpful for us to consider how that might impact or play into our theoretical concept of her. So the next letter is R, which is religion or spirituality. So just for the purpose of this exercise, let's make our client Roman Catholic, and we can say that she was raised Roman Catholic, and then we could include, if she's 13, she's been baptized, and she has had First Communion. Okay, so that brings us to ethnicity. So this is a way we can add some richness to our client. So how about we make her Haitian American? And what might be helpful is determining, and you can understand how that'd be important in the therapy process, to determine is she aligning herself more with the Haitian part of her Haitian American heritage, or the American part, or is she simply just unaware of what her ethnic heritage might be? The next letter is the S, and then the following S. So let's just say that she's in the mid categorization for SAS. So you can see how we're coming along here. We have 13, the mild hearing impairment. She's Roman Catholic, raised in that tradition with baptism and First Communion. She's Haitian American. She's from the mid socioeconomic status, and the next S is sexual orientation. So let's just say that she's heterosexual, just for the purpose of this exercise, and that brings us to I. So when we're considering our client who's 13, is she an only child? Is she the first of 3 girls? Is she the youngest of 8 and has 7 older brothers? Is she a twin? And if she is she a fraternal twin, or is she an identical twin? So you can see we have a lot of factors to consider here for birth order. So just for fun, let's say that she is the youngest of 8, so she's one of 8, and we'll say she's the youngest, and that she has all brothers, and that she likes to wear pink. So maybe she's a girly girl. Okay, all right. And then the last thing we have here is her name. So what is our client's name? She's female. She's Roman Catholic, raised and born, Haitian American. She's mid-SES. She's heterosexual from all that we know. She has a mild hearing impairment, and she's the youngest of 8, all boys that are older. So let's say that her name is Julia, just for fun. I'm just picking that out of the hat. And her nickname is Nene because that's what her grandmother used to call her. So now you can see we have a client to consider for our class purpose. So this is Nene. You can say this is Nene, and we need a presenting problem. That's the second step. So for the purpose of this exercise, I've come up with some presenting problems. So Nene may have problems biting others. She may be withdrawing from her family, and we don't know why. She may be using or abusing drugs, prescription, over-the-counter drugs, smoking cigarettes, that type of thing. Maybe she can't sleep. Maybe that's why she's coming into therapy. She may be having some problems because she's an excessive worrier, or maybe she's suffering from symptoms of depression. So that's a presenting problem. And then the last piece is strengths. So for this purpose of this exercise, I have come up with 3 strengths to say that Nene loves to read, specifically the Twilight series. That may be a little old reading for her, but probably nowadays that would be appropriate. She likes to tinker with cars, clocks, jewelry. She likes taking things apart, putting them back together, finding out how things work. And she plays an instrument, and for this purpose we would want to specify what instrument does she play. Does she play the violin? Does she play her own voice? Does she sing? And does she sing at church? That type of thing. Okay, so what that does is give us an idea of a client, and now we have Nene, so we can talk about her if this is what we would come up with as a class in our forums when we're discussing the theories that we're talking about for that week. So every week, I want to ask you to log into our wiki and add at least one piece of the puzzle for our client after everyone has participated. If we have any blanks, I'd like people to go back in and add another one, or I will go in there and help out. But this way we can come up with a new client every week so that we can keep our forums fresh and help us to begin the process of applying these theories in a way that's practical as we move along. Hopefully this has helped.